Continue. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. And today's interview, I have a very special guest. Well, everyone's special, but I'm so excited to talk to Vanessa Beauchamp about the emotions and the nervous system. So, world star, hi, Vanessa. Welcome. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you, Julieta. Always lovely to chat with you.
Yes, we have had a few conversations, and her and I also connected through our radical unschooling mentor, Dana Martin. And we have met, a few times before, but I wanted to have this conversation, and we're going to dive right in because of the connection between emotions and the body. Vanessa's work has center around that for a while, and if you could just help us understand where your background comes from, and then help us go into the connection between emotions and the body and the nervous system. So, yes,
Yeah.
all you.
Yeah, so I've spent a long time working very intimately with people in a range of different areas, but specifically it started working within the realms of sexuality and people's sexual health and also their intimacy with one another. So working with couples, working with singles, working with families even, and just kind of getting really into the nitty gritty of relational dynamics,
Yes.
specifically with, to begin with, it was specifically with sexuality. And
Mhm.
what that brought up was a really deep understanding of how, when our nervous system, when we're in dysregulation, or when we kind of have these bonds with others that are based on these kind of um, unhealthy attachments, let's say,
Okay.
which, to be honest, most of us have grown up in homes just basically because of the way the culture is and the way the parenting style is, the way the systems and structures are around school and everything else. All of us have mostly grown up in these systems that have kind of promoted these unhealthy attachments within
Yes.
relationships, which means most of us are in some kind of dysregulation a lot of the time.
Oh
So
my
heightened
goodness.
stress, heightened dysfunction, heightened, so so that background working really helped me see that. And at
Mhm.
first, I wasn't even in unschooling. I was kind of just working with, um, yeah, with um, singles and couples to
Okay.
support them to live more fulfilled lives within their relationships, right? Which then flows into other things. But I
Yes.
hadn't really made that connection between that and parenting
And parenting, yes.
and school and all of that. So I worked for a long time doing that, which then went into women's work. I became a doula and I started working with more and more women specifically, and
Mhm.
seeing how it was really, I felt like the women are the ones that once they understand this work, they're kind of the leaders. I feel like women are the true teachers.
Yes.
Um, and uh, that's just the way that I started to see it. The men that I was seeing were learning, but translating it into their homes wasn't quite happening. It's almost like we don't want to be told by our man to, how to do things. We want to kind of find these things out for ourselves. And then when we're on board, it's almost like the rest of the family can jump on board too. And
Yes.
obviously I'm speaking very gendered here, and there are variations to this, obviously, like life is very flavored. But
Yes.
as a general rule, this is what I started to see in my own practice and
See
with
it,
the people I
exactly.
worked with.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so with working with somatic therapy, the more and more that I worked with people on the somatic level, on the body level, the more I understood how deep this nervous system work goes. And then I kind of had a big aha around, oh my goodness, when I found unschooling, I was like, wow, this is a pathway into this same work, but it starts at the core of where all of these issues begin, which is in the
Childhood.
home, right
Yes.
in the beginning, in that
Yes.
childhood time, right? So
Mhm.
that was like a really big missing piece for me. When I found that, I was like, wow, kind of like mind blown. Like,
Mind
this is
blowing.
where the work begins, rather than unraveling it all later and
Yes.
having to rewire it all later. Like, why not start in the beginning? Let's work with the seeds rather than with the plant that's already grown, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important though. And so how long ago did you find unschooling? And how old were your children when you started making when you had this amazing revelation almost?
Yeah, so my oldest son was about 8 or 9, and
Okay.
he's 16. He's about to turn 16 now. So
Wow.
and my youngest was about 2, and he's about to turn 10 now. So I guess it's like 7, 8 years ago.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, and then I've got a daughter as well in the middle, and she's about to turn, or she's just turned 14.
Oh,
So I feel like a bit of a veteran in some ways now because we've been doing this for so
yeah,
long. Like
for
it
sure.
really feels like it's just embedded in the way we live and do
Mhm.
things. Um, but of course, as you would know, Julieta, there's always more to learn because as humans, as my kids are growing older, there's different challenges, there's different things that
Yes.
they're leaning into. Um, and yeah, I mean, if you want me to just speak about the nervous system a little bit to kind of dissect it in terms of,
Yes, I would love to
yeah,
dive, a little more into that. Not because I have found that in my journey, learning to see that has been a huge part of, you know, not being like triggered by certain things, right? Because I can see what I'm feeling. I can feel the body responding to those emotions. Whereas I feel like in the past I was always reacting, right? And I was never really connecting my emotions with my body. And I
right,
know my body was trying to tell me something, but
yeah,
so I just love for people to see those connections, to be able to like recognize, but maybe perhaps what they've been through and some of the symptoms that they have felt. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, that's related to that. So I love that.
right,
Hmm.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's really huge nervous system work, and there's a bit of a myth around the nervous system in that dysregulation's bad and regulation's good. And I get it. I mean, even how I was speaking about my introduction, then there was elements there of like, oh, we're all dysregulated and we're all, in these unhealthy attachments. So there is a level where, yes, there's some truth in just
And
making a
that.
blanket statement of good and bad, but
Mhm.
it's not so simple. It's not really so simple because actually dysregulation serves a purpose. We do need dysregulation at certain points, depending on what's happening and, if there's danger. Our nervous system is so
Smart.
um, wise that it's kind of
Mhm.
alerting us to things. So we don't want to wipe out. We don't want to say we want to be, like never be dysregulated. Dysregulation is a process of moving, being able to move through different states. The the most important part of this nervous system work is that you become flexible so
Mhm.
that you're not staying in these dysregulated states.
Fantastic.
And that's what the problem is. Most people are stuck in this dysregulated state and they're kind of looping between fight or flight and then freeze response as well. They're kind of looping rather than ever getting into like the ventral vagal state, which is kind of that tend and befriend. It's when you're in your most curious state, you're cooperative, you're wanting to contribute to life, you feel connected, you feel like you belong, like all of those yummy feelings that of course we all want to feel that, right?
Words.
But and we want to be able to rest in that state, but we want to be able to be fluid enough to move in and out of these other states as we need it. And the problem with most parenting models is that it's constantly dimming and dulling that inner compass. That's what the nervous system is. It's like an inner compass that's kind of leading us the right way, the wrong way, like
Yes.
um and when that's dimmed, it's like the compass, we can't really feel what our body's trying to tell us. So
Exactly.
maybe we overeat. Maybe we like zone out all the time. Maybe we push ourselves beyond our limits and then we burn out. Like all of these symptoms that adults are experiencing in adulthood come from this like lack of connection to the body
Yeah.
and lack of real understanding of the nervous system and why it's so important to listen to the body and listen to the body's cues, right?
Mhm.
And it does take a bit of unlearning. So just to kind of do a really quick overview of the different states within and when we talk about the nervous system, there are different branches of the nervous system as well. So
Okay.
we're specifically focusing on one particular area of the nervous system, which has the three branches, which are um, well, two main branches. There's the ventral vagal state and then the dorsal vagal state. The ventral vagal is what I was talking about with the tendon befriend,
Yes.
when you're feeling all of those great feelings that humans
Oh,
want to be feeling most of the time.
most
And
definitely.
yeah, and then the dorsal vagal state. So this is both part of the I don't know if you've heard of the
I
vagal
don't
nerve.
No, I don't think so though. There's definitely a lot
Right.
of information here just, from you. So yeah, feel free to
Okay.
explain,
All right,
whatever you
I'll
need.
explain. So the vagus nerve is kind of a central channel, and a lot of people when they talk about, oh yeah, the ventral vagus, most people know of the ventral vagal state, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the most kind of the best thing to be in, but they kind of don't realize that there's another branch to the vagal state, which is the dorsal vagal, which is also part of the ventral vagal, sorry, of the vagal nervous system.
Okay.
Um, and the other branch is the dorsal vagal, which is actually where there's the freeze state.
Okay.
So that's connected to that same, vagal branch,
Mhm.
essentially. But most people lump, like, yeah, they lump the kind of the positive vagal state as just this one aspect.
One
But
aspect.
there is
Okay.
yeah, with being the
Mhm.
tendon befriend state. But because there is this other aspect to it, it's really important to understand how that works. So ventral vagal theory is, or polyvagal theory, sorry, that's what it's called, polyvagal theory. And you can look that up if you want to
Okay.
kind of, if this information is like, whoa, this is a lot to take in and I'm not quite digesting it, just go online and you can look up polyvagal theory
Mhm.
and it will be explained a bit better. So originally we thought there was only the fight or flight, and then there's this beautiful vagal state that is what we want to have, right? But now with polyvagal theory, there's an awareness that actually the vagal has two branches, and then we've also got the sympathetic nervous system, which has the fight or flight,
Okay.
right? So originally it was like sympathetic nervous system, and then what's the other term that they don't normally use, ventral vagal. What's the term they use? I'm losing my words here today. But usually that people think sympathetic nervous system bad because it's fight or flight, and then the other one is not quite coming into. But
It's
the other
okay.
one good. The
The
other
other
one
one
good,
said
right?
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we don't ever want to be in sympathetic, but actually there's a ladder. There's a
Okay.
ladder that happens. So with the tendon befriend state, the vagal state, that's great. And then the freeze state is kind of like, let's say at the bottom, let's say the
Okay.
ladder that's at the bottom, right? Then the next rung on that ladder is the sympathetic nervous system state of fight or flight. And then
Okay.
the next one on top of that is the tendon befriend, that beautiful state that we want to be in. But you actually can't jump from the bottom to the top. You can't just go from freeze up into this beautiful state that you want to be in. You actually have to go through fight or flight to get there. So
Okay.
again, this is where it's kind of debunking that myth that like
You're
this
either
one's bad. It's
happy.
not, it's
Yes.
not bad. The sympathetic nervous system state of fight or flight is not bad. It can help us move out of those deeper states of like freeze. And when I'm talking about freeze, our whole body shuts down in a freeze state. We become a bit numb. Like
Okay.
our pain threshold increases so that we don't really feel much. It's
Mhm.
where we can get into the states of deep depression when it's more severe. But
Okay.
if you're looking at parenting models that are cutting kids off from being able to listen to their bodies, right? Or there's a lot of punishment,
Yes.
we might naturally start to go into freeze states with certain things. We might start to numb out from listening to our body cues because we're being told not to, or being told to
Yes.
override them, right?
Yeah.
So we might have, all of us would have levels of freeze activated in our bodies somewhere, right? At different, during different experiences. And
Yes.
when this happens, and when there's this shutdown, to get from that into a more ventral vagal state, the ideal state, we actually have to get moving. We actually have to have that fire of the fight or flight to move us and motivate us into a more ventral vagal state. So can you see how, like, none of them are really bad? It's more that we need to be able to move freely between them so that when
Yes.
something happens, we can recognize it, gets, like if we're in a freeze state, we could maybe just do some gentle holding or rocking or stomping or move, like just try and get moving, right? To try
Yes.
and move the energy and open the energy up to then come back into the ventral vagal. But when we don't have that awareness, what happens is over years and years and years, we continue to follow those same patterns of freezing or being in a heightened state of activation like fight or flight, and we kind of just move between those two rather than ever really coming into that beautiful, you know, um, ventral vagal state. And a lot of people are on a treadmill of the fight or flight, like, okay,
Yes.
busyness, getting things done in that fight or flight mode, like getting it done, pushing through, and then burning out and then going into a freeze of numbness or zoning out with Netflix or zoning out with like,
Yes.
numbing out with food or alcohol or whatever it is, whatever the things that you use. Can you see the pattern of like just kind of looping between those two?
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah, totally. I
And
see. I feel like that
yeah,
everybody, society almost like works on those, on those
yeah,
too. Like it's just a continuous loop on that because all of a sudden, most of our inner guidance is shut down. So we're
yeah,
working from the responses and from the feedback from the outside voices, right? That completely overrides our own, system. So that's
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, and it's not to say that people don't ever not are never in their tendon
Yes.
befriending there. We do come into that state too, but the norm of like getting things done or functioning in the world tends to be looping through these two states of the fight or
Uh,
flight and the freeze and fawn response. So freeze and fawn are in that same category. So there's just a lot of that, and then what tends to happen is especially as for kids, when they're going through these states, it's like if they're going locking into a freeze or fawn state, often, well, if it's fawn, they're often um, praised as being the good kid, right? A fawn state is you do everything to just make sure everyone's happy, and
everyone's happy.
you
Yeah.
like you're the good girl, you're the typical good child who will always want to do the right thing because you're kind of in that set of fawning to um yeah, to meet everyone else's needs. And so
Yes.
so
But you're
that kind of child, especially for a girl, will get praised and propped
mm,
up. So that fawn state becomes embedded as the way of operating in the world, right? So continuing to completely disconnect and disassociate from their body, from their true self. And so on the outside, people might be like, "Oh, you're doing such a great job as a parent, and look at your child. They're such a
so good.
model person," right? And it's like, hold on, are they? Is that truly their personality, or is that actually they're just in a fawn state most of the time, right?
Oh,
And then you've got the other child who's maybe more prone to the fight or flight state of like overtly expressing and maybe coming across aggressive or lashing out or, you know, and they're reprimanded continuously, right? About
mm,
that kind of behavior. And so what does that do to them? Again, it's not really helping them move out of that
of that
fight or
state.
flight state or channel that excess energy that they've got going on. It will just create more imbalance, right? More disconnect from who they are and more self kind of criticism around who they are, right? So it's just this really intricate thing that a lot of parents aren't aware of what's
Yeah.
actually happening under the surface. We kind of really need to have that keen eye and an open heart to feel it.
Definitely an open heart. And I feel like, a lot of the work that I have done, it really hasn't had to do with, it's not with my children, but for myself. So for
Yeah,
parents and for anybody, for any of the people that you have worked with in the past, what are some of the tools that you have used to help recognize those patterns and
yeah,
for people to see, because I can see just from your description, I'm like, oh, I was in that pattern because I was definitely the good girl, right? I was the one that had all the good grades. I did all the right things. I make sure that the people that, that my parents were trying to get what they needed from me, right? To be okay. So I can see those parents, but how do we move, from them, I guess. I have worked on it a lot, and I think continuously I continue to work but it's just fascinating. So what have you used to help other people?
Yeah, sure. My little one just walked in just to
Oh,
touch me
it's
on the shoulder.
I
You can say hello if you'd like to, honey. Um, this is a really good question, and I would love to just say one key thing here is because I don't want when any mums to walk away feeling guilty or like, oh my God, my kid's this, my kid's that. What am I doing? I'm messing up my kids. The number one thing is focus on you.
yeah.
Start to get an awareness of what's going on for you. Notice when you're so ways to recognize how what state you're in. The tend and befriend one's kind of easy. When you're feeling curious, you're feeling in flow, you're feeling connected, you're feeling, that one's easy, right? We know when we're feeling like that.
Yes.
The fight or flight's a little bit trickier because sometimes we can, if it's been a long pattern, it just has become so normalized for us to be heightened. So tuning our gaze and our hearts and our attention inwards and actually feeling our bodies, taking some time out every day, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 minutes even, like I get that mums are often quite busy or have quite full lives, but even 2 minutes, just tuning into really feeling the sensations in the body and noticing what's present. So often when we're in a fight or flight, we will feel activations of heat. We might feel jittery energy coming through the body, right? We might feel that kind of like, yeah, those rushes, or we might feel cramping up, like a tension coming up.
Oh,
Okay, I won't be long. I'm just having this chat with Julietta and then I'll come and hang out with you. Do you want to go and see if Indy's doing something?
I promise it won't be long.
We won't be long, honey. Um, Yeah, so the first is noticing if those things are happening, and you don't have to do anything necessarily when you notice that. Don't start to feel guilty. Oh my God, I'm feeling these things.
Yeah, you're
It's more
like,
just,
what do I
yeah,
do?
what do I do? So becoming aware if it is fight or flight and you're feeling activated or you feel like yelling at someone or you're feeling like pissed off, channeling that into ways of overtly expressing for yourself. So, an example of this for me with my kids, whenever I was feeling like, oh, I'm about to explode at someone, I would just do this like shaking and I'd go, ah, and I'd make a loud, like make some sound with my voice. And the kids would also just kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? And I'm
What's
like,
going
I
on?
just need to get it out. I'm feeling frustrated and I just need to get it out. And then that can sometimes be enough just to reset. Like you've
Yeah,
kind of discharged a little, right?
yeah.
So that's, there's obviously lots more things you can do, but
There's-
shaking and sounding, moving in some way can be really helpful if you're in a fight or flight. Can be
Okay.
really helpful to just minimize the charge.
Yes.
Once you minimize the charge, you kind of want to self-soothe a little bit, like reparent yourself. So just gentle touching on the body, like just to kind of calm yourself down and hold yourself, nice deep breaths, something like that can be really helpful for the fight or flight. If you notice you're in freeze, so some telltale signs of freeze would be you just can't feel. You really can't feel anything in your body. When you tune in, it feels numb.
Wow.
It feels numb. You don't really, maybe you feel a bit despondent. Maybe you're a bit like, I don't even care anymore. Like, whatever. Kids are, maybe you were upset with the kids for a while. You were feeling activated. Stuff was chaotic. And
Mm.
then suddenly you've just reached that point where you've gone deeper into your responsive
Yes.
and you're just like, I don't even care. Just
Yes.
do whatever. Like I don't care anymore. So that kind of state.
Okay.
And if you're in that state, oh, that's okay, my love. If you're in that state, I would suggest again just being with self.
Yes.
Remember that feeling nothing in your body, feeling numb in your body is also a feeling. Because
Yes.
sometimes we think if I'm feeling nothing, then it's, like I'm not feeling it. But actually feeling nothing and feeling numb is still a feeling. So that's the start of kind of like think of it like an ice cube. To unthaw the ice cube, at first you put the ice in your hand and it sits there and it doesn't look like it's doing anything, but by
But
sitting
it
there in
is
your hand,
now.
it's gently melting. right? It's the same thing. So just being with self. And definitely when you're in freeze, inviting some kind of gentle movement to get things moving again. Because remember, you want to go through a fight or flight. So you might not have the drive or the energy to start shaking and making loud noises because you're not quite at that state yet, but gentle, like rocking, again, like that reparenting of self by just
Yes.
touching. Just some gentle stuff to bring you into the body and let your body know, let your nervous system know that you're here. You've got you.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, and just those gentle shifts in your day, if you could do that a few, or any time of day, but if you could at least tune in and do that once a day for yourself, and then remember to do that when you're feeling those heightened states or when you're starting to feel despondent and you're feeling nothing, just that is enough to start to get the wheels moving and for you to start to become more aware and get back into the driver's seat of your body,
Mm,
and really come back to that inner compass. And lastly, what I'll say is, with our kids, the most important thing is you coming into a regulated state. They borrow from your nervous system because their nervous system's still immature. It's
okay.
still learning. So they borrow from yours. So when you work on you, you're actually working on the whole family. I would actually extend it to the whole family because I feel like the mother is the root system
Mhm.
of the entire family. And so when you work on yourself, it's not selfish. You don't need to feel guilty
Mhm.
because, like, it actually, you're nourishing the entire system around you, right? Yeah. And
Yes.
you will notice that when you start to work on yourself, you'll notice shifts in your kids. And you'll also notice just your capacity to be with their emotion without trying to change it because kids are really good at trying to re-regulate themselves. The
Mhm.
reason they push up against you, and so this is the other myth, like my kid's behaving like this because they don't respect me, or my kid's behaving like this because they're being pains and they're being spoilt, or they're being this, or they're, whatever it is, they don't respect me. Um, it's not that. It's kids are always trying to find a way to regulate themselves
Regulate themselves.
without knowing it. So if
Uh-huh.
they're pushing up against you around something, it's because they're trying to regulate. And if they do that more with you, if they seem to arc up more with you, it's because they trust you. It's because they trust you enough to be themselves and to try and sort out what's going on
Work,
within
yeah, to
themselves.
try to work that out though.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So beautiful and just so important for us to know that because I remember hearing that in the past, like, they learn the kids that learn to say no because they're always authentic to themselves. So that no comes out naturally, right? They know that they don't want to do something. They know that's not what's good for them. So they're always true. But as we grow older, then we're slowly tuning that out. We're turning that off and we have to come back to center. Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you so much for that explanation. As we
I
wrap up,
hope it makes sense for people because it is a lot of information. It can take some time to digest. But I just think it's really important to remember that piece that, and also to remember it's not about being calm all the time as a
yes,
parent. It's about modeling how you move in and out of
in and out of
dysregulation.
those, yes.
That's important for them to see that you get mad about things and not directed at them, but show them how you move it. Like, oh, I'm feeling really
Mhm.
frustrated. I just need to shake it out or something. Like all of those little things where they can see that you're human and you move
Yes.
between the states is worth more gold in their
And
lives
anything
than
else.
than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially that it's okay to move those, that there's a reason why we have each one of those states because they are there to protect us when we need them, right? But when
Yeah,
constantly in this
exactly.
loop cycle, we tend to like forget or maybe not really see the real danger that we're up against sometimes when we're
Exactly.
constantly in those moods. So thank you so much for that. That's definitely a lot of like really good nuggets of information to get started and go deeper if that's what people choose to do so, right? So
Yeah.
I know you to do this amazing work, with the body and the emotions, but also with unschooling, to help parents, on their unschooling journey. So can you just let us know what you're working on and how can people connect with you? Because
Yeah.
I know you have amazing programs. So
Thank you. Lovely. Yeah. So I have kind of a few main ways. One is I've focused on all the parenting work. So I have a membership space called Revolt Membership for Mothers, which is for mothers who are both unschooling their kids, and also I've got some parents in there that have kids in school. But
yes.
the point, the core of it is that we're working towards all of these beautiful things that I've been speaking about,
Mhm.
leaning into creating more connection with our kids and allowing them to have more freedom in their lives, whether they choose to go to school or not. But yeah, so teaching a mixture of new paradigm parenting and radical unschooling. But also, the beauty of that group is that I also do the body work in that group. So, part of it's coaching for parenting and unschooling, and the other part of it is actually support for embodiment work to
Mhm.
support your nourished nervous system. And we have guest speakers in there as well, and seasonal planning sessions and things like that. So, that's a really yummy space that's been running now for about coming up to 2 years now, a year and a half around about.
Yes, I love that.
So that's kind of the main space with that. I have a podcast that I'm starting, which I've
Yes.
still got to get out that first episode with you, Julietta. I'm so slow with getting that out, but it will get out. I do one-on-one sessions too. So I do just if for people with parenting concerns, I do just voice chat support if they want to
Okay.
connect via voice chat. And then I also do somatica sessions, which is the dog's running the dog. Getting all the interruptions today.
It's all right.
It's just one of those days, isn't it?
It's okay. I think probably it's like the most important thing that they wanted us to get out was the membership aspect of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's so funny. I love it.
Sorry. All right. It's all right. No,
I guess. Oh,
stop it. Stop it. There you go.
look at you.
Okay, stop it. So the somatica sessions is where I work with mostly I work with mums, to be very honest, that they're the ones that tend to come to me. But we can work on anything and everything in those sessions. So sometimes parenting stuff comes up, sometimes it's to do with past traumas or hurts, sometimes it's to do with just wanting to express more freely sexually. So I kind of, anything and everything can come up in those sessions. And for anyone who's kind of like, what is a somatica session? It's kind of a mixture of like traditional talk therapy where we just chat for a bit, but the biggest key of that is we go into the body after that,
Mhm.
and we really work
Yes.
with letting the body lead and bring out any of the things that need to be moved, shifted, rewired. Um, and then my other branch of work is I've just opened another Instagram page. So that page is Weaving Hearth, where I have all my parenting stuff. And then on the in my other page, it's called Steamy by Nature. So I've
Okay.
just which is more focused on women's sexual health, women's sexuality, women's sexual health, womb care. I offer, like, I'm a certified yoni steaming practitioner, so I sell yoni steaming herbs, and we're just branching out into, well, I'm just branching out into teas. I've just gotten the packaging, which
Oh,
is
I
these
love that.
beautiful biodegradable cylinders. I still have to make some labels for the front, but um, yeah, these little, so I'm going to be doing women's wellness teas in those as well, which I'm super excited about. And yeah, and then I just do womb care consults and things like that online for that as well for people who are not
Okay.
within Australia. And then they can just buy the herbs themselves. So they're the kind of like the main two areas, the women's sexual wellness and then the parenting stuff, which they kind of cross over, to be honest. They
Yes,
cross
I could.
over,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
totally see that though. I think definitely everything is connected. And I think that's the more the more that I study, the more that I learn from people, I see that connection. It's so, so tangible. And I also feel the disconnect that I had in the past, from my emotions in the body. So I'm slowly coming back to it. And I just love what you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise in your journey. We will go ahead and put all the links, in the descriptions for anybody that wish to connect further with Vanessa, because she definitely is a wealth of information. So thank you very much again for being here with
Thank
us.
you.
And I look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. Please remember that your time is very precious. I hope you're making it count. Take care. Bye.